Okay, you didn't give me a dimension, so I'm assuming you just want to see how to do it so that you can do it yourself later on for whatever dimension you want. Okay, uh, you just going to do a square, so you click on the square, hold down the shift key and drag it down to get the size. You notice it jumps when you try to get out of square. And just check the size on it. You can look up here and you see right now it's pretty close to the same, exactly the same, I'm sorry. So by locking this, now you can come in here and put your dimension in it. If you wanted to do it by let's say 2 inches, you click on it. So now the box is square 2 inches, or 2 by 1. Move my mouse. There. All right. So now it is set, and let's say you wanted to drill a hole in the center of it, so you would grab the circle tool, hold down the shift key and drag it down, and again you click on it so that it has these arrows. Click on this select key. Again, this is still locked, so whatever size you want. Let's say you wanted a 1/2 inch hole there. So you click it on 1/2 inch and it's going to be a 1/2 inch hole. Now it is not centered, so you come up here to align and distribute, and if you highlight both of them this one is already highlighted, you highlight this one with a click. So now both of them, you see this has the dotted line, so they're both highlighted, and when you click on these two over here, this one lines it top to bottom and this one lines it left to right. So now it is centered in there. Okay, so now you wanted to drill a hole. So what we're going to do is we're going to, again, hold down the shift key, and we're going to come in here and make a small diameter. And we're going to leave it a little bit large right now. Click on this, and let's just say let's make it a 1/2 inch. So it's easy to see. Oops, no, I don't want to make a 1/2 inch. I want to make it something smaller. That's a 0.5. Okay, so it's a small hole. I know it's not the size you want to select right now. You just wanted to peck that or center punch it. So what we'll do is we'll copy it. Do a copy and paste. So we copy it and then we do a paste, and we'll bring the other one over here. So we'll just put them over here. And what you can do is, if you want to align them so they're all top to bottom, you hold the shift key and click this one, and these two are now locked together. So if you click on this, it is going to move them. See, it moved them slightly, so they're right in line there. To get actual measurements on them, you would come down here and drag this line down. So it is like this, and let's say you wanted to have this a 1/2 inch away from here. So what you would need to do is highlight this box, and its measurements are here, X and Y coordinates. So we're going to come over here and just make this 2 inches, and it moves it over. And since we wanted this in the center, we could still just do the shift key, click on this, and again, left to right, it centers it, just to be sure it stayed there. So now this hole here is centered, and what we want to do is we want to align these. Let's say you wanted to have this 1 inch in from the side, you would grab this little arrow here and move it in here and come up to 1 inch, and you would see you needed to move this a little bit over, and actually you can just look at the measurements here. So we want to make it at 2.5, so you go 2.5, and top to bottom, we know it's already lined top to bottom, so we'll leave that. Now this one over here, you want to have 1 inch in from this side, so that's going to be 3.5 or 1/2 inch in side, so that's you come up here and just change this to 3.5. So now basically you have them set up so that they're equal distant, or whatever distance you want over here. You can use these to position them. I thought you needed these, but I don't really think you do. So anyway, by using the coordinates up here, the X and Y coordinates, you can place them wherever you want. So right now we see that they're there, but you want to bring them down to the size that they are a PEC size. Just for grins to make sure they get transferred, let's go ahead and do object to path. Click on this one, object to path, this one, object to path, and this one, object to path. Okay, so they're all paths now. If you click on this and go like this, you see it turns red, this turn red, this turn red, and this turn red. So it tells you that they are all paths. So what we want to do now is we want to, again, highlight this one, and we want to bring it down to the size that we want for a PEC, which I would bring it down to like 0.2 thousandths of an inch. Since this is locked, it is going to reduce both X and Y directions on it. Hit enter and reduce it. Come down here and click on this one, do the same thing. Bring it down to 2 thousandths of an inch and click it, and now you can't see it. If you zoom in, you will see a small gray dot. Another thing is, if you move it around, when you do get over it, I did this before and I was able to find it, but anyway, I can't see them. Yeah, you see every once in a while that little 4-line let's go over here. There's the thing. And the same thing went over here. If you come over to the dimension that we gave it, you can see it's there. So anyway, if you go ahead and save this as a SVG or a DXF, and let's call it TCJ. Whoops. Okay. It put it somewhere I didn't want it, so I'm going to have to save it again. Computer. This is my junk file here. Everything that I put in there whenever I do drawings for people, then I can find it. So anyway, I'm going to save it as a DXF again. And save it. Okay, so we're basically done with Inkscape. Okay, now we're in SheetCam, so we'll come down here and do import drawing, and we'll look for that where I stuck it, and come down here, and we should be, it's set for DXF. Here's the file, so we click on this. Now you see you have your outside, these are your center punches, and there's your inside circle. So what you want to do is shift over to contour and mark these, move, I call them center punch, you could put CP if you wanted, and then mark this one as CP also. You could call this one inside hole if you wanted to, or leave it to be cut, but since you're probably going to cut the inside of that and the outside of the box, I do make it a different one, so we'll just call it inside. So now I basically have 3 different paths here. I have a tool, dimpling plasma is what I called it. Kerth width is 0. Your feed rate doesn't really make any difference. Pierce delay is 0. Pierce height is 140 thousandths. Pierce rate is whatever, you know, you don't really need cut height, you don't worry. The pierce height and the cut height can be lower, or, you know, I think you had to have them slightly different, so you could put this one on 150, 140, and this one on 150. It doesn't really make any difference, but that's the name of my and this is a plasma type G-code, or tool. So we close that. We come down here and click on plasma. We are going to do no offset. We are going to do layer, which is center punch. We are going to select the tool, which was dimpling, and feed rate and so forth. This, as long as you don't have any lead in and lead outs, there's no problem with it. So you click on it. Now, generally what you do is you have an additional hole punch that might be in here, because they say the first punch actually stays on a couple of milliseconds longer, and therefore it punches a little bit bigger. So a lot of times I'll either put it in something that's going to fall out later on, or I may put it outside of the usable part that I have. But anyway, you have one that is basically a sacrificial punch, and then the second two, or however many you need to do it, you just go and click with that. Now, what I do, I have another code snippet that I generated, which is basically table pause. I want to pause before I go on to cut the other parts, because I want to change the amperage on my plasma. So this basically is just table pause was the name of it, and it's a M01, which is a stop. So I click on this and it puts it here, and then the next thing I come in here, I'll do the inside offset, and I'll say do the inside and change it to whatever tool you're going to use. Let's say I'm going to use a 1/4 inch. So all the settings are there. You can have lead in if you want, and lead out if you want. So you go ahead and click that, and you see it is set it up here to cut the outside, the inside, and then the other part is the outside's going to be outside offset, and it's going to be layer 1, and again inside, arc in and out, lead in and out, or whatever. So there's your finished thing, and you would go ahead and then do your post-processing. What this does is, if you do this and you have a bunch of parts that you want center punched, you go mark all your parts. Let's say you had 10 of these that were similar. So at the last part that you plan that has center punches in it, you put this command in. It will do all the center punches then on the table first, because it is laid out this way. You're doing your dimples, and then after the last dimple that you mark on your table, wherever it is, you put the code in there. It'll do all the dimples, then it will stop, increase your amperage, and then hit cycle start, and it does all the rest of it. It'll go back to the first one, and it'll cut this part of it, and then it'll cut this part of it, and does the rest with all the rest of them. So anyway, that's what you need to do.